WBAY TV, your first alert station. Action 2 News this morning starts now.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on your Sunday morning. We'll get to the top stories in just a moment, but real quick, talking a little bit more about the weather.
Yeah, and today is starting out just fine. Mostly sunny in Appleton. Yesterday we had a lot of yesterday we had a lot of activity, but today the rain chance is much lower. There's still a chance of it, but it's much lower, and I don't think not as many people will see rainfall today.
That's good. I think the one thing that caught some people off guard was the hail.
Yeah,
but that was kind of unique. We were talking about that, like how that just built a little bit more energy to be able to create that hail.
I was thinking, like, looking at it, was just going to be gusty winds and some very heavy downpours, which did happen. Sure. But then, like, the hail part, I was like, whoa. Okay, all right.
So, weather is wild, man.
Just because it hailed doesn't mean it was necessarily severe. So things could change. But looking at First Alert Viper Max, you see that not much activity is happening right now. We're just staying quiet over northeast Wisconsin. We did see a cell earlier, but you notice that it fell apart rather quickly. So the entire state of Wisconsin not seeing much activity, mostly clear and nice. Temperatures right now sitting in the mid to lower 60s. We had some upper 50s up in the Northwoods, but now we're really warming up quickly. Sturgeon Bay closing in on 70 degrees as we speak. So for your forecast for today, we'll start out mostly sunny. Temperatures are going to be a little bit warmer. They're going to be in the mid 80s for today, but we still do have that chance of spotty showers and storms in the afternoon. Again, maybe a storm could create some heavy downpours and gusty winds, but it's a lower chance compared to yesterday. Coming up, I'll have to talk about more about the storms and the smoke that's going to be coming into our area.
All right, thanks for keeping an eye on that, Bo. A Consumer First Alert, new action to stop scam calls.
Billions and billions with a B of calls being made every year. And so it's an incredible problem.
Wisconsin is involved in a new nationwide sweep stopping companies responsible for illegal phone calls. Tammy Elliott explains how authorities are tracking them down with your help.
Wisconsin is joining with the federal government and officials in all 50 states to put an end to billions of scam calls. This week, the Federal Trade Commission announced its new initiative, Operation Stop Scam Calls. 5 new cases against telemarketers and companies responsible for making billions of illegal telemarketing calls nationwide. The Wisconsin Division of Consumer Protection says it's a giant problem, and people on the receiving end of those robocalls need to know your complaints are being heard.
As part of Operation Stop Scam, the Attorney General sued a company called Avid Telecom and its owner, vice president. And what they were doing is they were facilitating the billions of illegal robocalls to millions of people, violating several laws. And so I think this new initiative will show that things are being done and that it is worth filing that complaint. It is worth making sure that Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection is aware of it, that the FTC understands this is still happening, because without that, we won't know which company to look at. But certainly, as you can see and has been demonstrated, companies are being held accountable.
Michael Domke encourages you to file a complaint with the state so they can continue to investigate telemarketing companies that don't follow the law.
A lot of our investigations start with one phone call. It's one consumer calling us and saying, hey, I got this and I'm on the do not call list. And from there, we just keep tugging on that thread, and it turns into investigations like you see here.
Tammy Elliott, Action 2 News.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is healing this morning after a surgery to implant a pacemaker. The operation was triggered because of a warning from Netanyahu's heart monitor saying he had a transient heart block. His doctor says the surgery went well and Netanyahu is healing well. Netanyahu was admitted to the hospital last week for dehydration and dizziness. President Biden is expected to announce a new national monument to honor Emmett Till. Emmett Till was a black teenager who was kidnapped, tortured, and then lynched in Mississippi in 1955. Historians say Till's murder aided in action for the civil rights movement. The monument sites will include a site in Chicago where mourners gathered after his death, Gabriel Landing, where it was believed his body was pulled up from the Tallahatchie River, and the courthouse, where an all-white jury acquitted the men suspected of killing Till. President Biden is set to make the announcement on Tuesday, which would have been Till's 82nd birthday. We may soon get an answer to one of life's greatest mysteries. Are we really alone? On Wednesday, a House subcommittee will hold a hearing about unidentified phenomena, as well as national security, public safety, and government transparency. The hearing will explore firsthand accounts of UFOs and their possible threats to national security.
Now, we don't know what UFOs represent to humanity yet, but these hearings coming up, that's hopefully what will shed some light on the capabilities of these advanced vehicles. Whose are they?
Now, the Air Force veteran David Grush is set to testify after previously making statements about how the government is withholding information pertaining to UFOs. A federal judge has denied trucking giant Yellow's attempt to block a unionized strike that the company warns could cause it to plunge into bankruptcy. Yellow is one of the nation's largest freight carriers and employs roughly 30,000 workers. However, the Teamsters union warned earlier this week that it could strike after the company missed a pension and health care payment deadline for some of its 22,000 unionized workers. The union says the strike could happen as soon as Monday. Yellow filed a request asking for a temporary restraining order to prevent the strike, saying it would force the company, quote, into a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy proceeding. On Friday, the U.S. District Judge rejected that motion, saying union members have the right to strike as part of labor disputes. Yellow has said that it will appeal the ruling. Negotiations between UPS and the Teamsters union will resume this week. This will be the first time the two sides will meet since they walked away from negotiations on July 4th. Both sides say about 95% of the contract is agreed upon. UPS has agreed to put air conditioners in new vehicles and retrofit old ones with fans. UPS has offered the union a historic economic package, but according to union leaders, the offer is not good enough. The union is asking for higher starting wages for part-timers. Both sides have until July 31st to come to a deal. Coming up this morning on Upfront, increasing fears this weekend about the well-being of a Wisconsin soldier detained in North Korea. This morning, a Pentagon spokesperson is on Upfront with the latest.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. U.S. officials becoming increasingly concerned this morning, now nearly a week since 23-year-old U.S. Army Private Travis King from Wisconsin willingly crossed the border into North Korea. His family this weekend pleading for his return. This morning, we're one-on-one with a Pentagon spokesperson, the very latest on the investigation and the U.S. efforts to reach him. Then, Indictment Watch, another potential federal indictment targeting former President Donald Trump. This investigation focusing on efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The latest now just a month out from the first Republican presidential primary debate in Milwaukee. So who's likely in and who's likely out? It is an incredibly busy Sunday morning. We're going to get you all caught up right here at 10 on Upfront.